I used a variety of media technologies throughout the project which I have improved my abilities on, as well as a few which I have developed skills in having not used them before. The most useful technology was the internet, where I could create my blog on a website called Blogger, which allowed me to create an organised space for all my thoughts and developments. This is my second year using it, as I also used it as part of my AS course. I was able to document all my research, pre-production planning, developments and ideas with the aid of multimedia, which could be easily uploaded to illustrate points. This was particularly useful when referring back to work. YouTube was also particularly helpful as it enabled me to search from existing work to analyse and take inspiration from, such as watching snippets from my key inspiration, 500 Days of Summer. I also use Virgin Media Shorts, which enable me to watch and embed a variety of short films by serious amateur directors, which allow me to research and analyse professional short films, of which many also had limited resources. I also use the internet for scripting by using ScriptBuddy, which I also used last year. The internet-based program allowed me to create a professional script of my film with all the correct margins that they use in the industry. I was familiar with the program from my AS work last year and it's relatively easy to use. Obviously I didn't have any dialogue, but aided my storyboard and giving guide for me, camerawoman and actors with their stage directions. The storyboard was developed on iMovie, a piece of software I am also fairly used to. It allowed me to import the photographs of the shots I had drawn and manipulate them to make them seem as close to the finished film as I could. I was able to make the shots pan, track or zoom and the transitions fade, cut or cross dissolve. The main program I used was Final Cut, which I also used last year to edit my footage. Due to this, I found it relatively easy. Final Cut as a program was used by professionals and enabled me to cut down and easily reorder my shots and change the colour saturation if needed. Most of this is what I did last year for my AS coursework, but this year I also made use of the speed or time-lapse tool, which allowed me to speed up the drawing shots. Again, as with last year, I also used LiveType to enable me to create professional-looking titles with ease. This involved me simply typing the title in, changing the font, and simply overlaying over the top of my visual image or shot. This year, however, I made the most of a live font, meaning that the text moves a little. I was really pleased with the one I found, as the letters look as though they are being sketched, which obviously works well with my film. Although a lot of the software I used for the creation of my film product were familiar, the programs I used in the creation of my ancillaries, the film review and poster, were completely new to me. For the review, I was introduced to a program called InDesign, which was surprisingly simple to use once I got the hang of it. It allowed me to add photographs and text in text boxes, specifically in professional layouts that could be chosen. I was able to add columns too, which allowed me to follow film review conventions and of film reviews in my chosen magazine, which had 3 columns. There were also margins, which meant I could place my image and text in exact measurements, allowing for it to look professional. The poster, I used Photoshop. I'd used this before, but only briefly, and not to the extent I needed to create the poster I had in mind. After playing around with it, just to understand it a little more, I started using it with a little more confidence. It enabled me to create just what I had in mind. I was able to put the text and the images together through having different layers, as well as being able to change the saturation of colour, as with the tea stain. I also used a scanner to scan in the drawing, through which I strengthened the depth of the lines using a variety of tools to make it stand out more. In terms of hardware, I used a Sony HD Handycam CX190 to film. This, paired with a tripod, allowed me to film smoothly and with ease. Although the camera quality wasn't the best, it was easy to navigate and I knew my way around it as I used it in my AS work also. All the technologies mentioned have helped me to successfully create professional, conventional media products, from the main film to my ancillary tasks.